Welcome to our quarterly meeting. Perhaps what we can do is we can go around with the self-introductions, like Tesopoulos, for those of you guys who are attending through webcast, DO, engineering and permitting. To my left.
Yeah, I'm Amir Beshmach. I'm the assistant to Lucky for engineering and permitting.
And then perhaps we can start with Devin.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't you introduce yourself, Ryan?
Ryan Stromar, Senior Admin, Engineering and Permitting.
And do you guys know Paul Wright?
Yeah.
He is, wow, those of you who have been long enough with us, you see him every month. And perhaps in between. So, okay.
Yes, Devin Richards, California Council for Environmental and Economic Balance.
Bill Lamar, Executive Director of the California Small Business Alliance.
Bridget McCann, Western States Petroleum Association.
Judy York, York Engineering.
David Rothbart, Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts.
And maybe Susan, we can go with you.
Susan Stark, Endeavor.
Cynthia Carter, LA County Sanitation.
Phil Kaufman, Metropolitan Water District.
Warren McEwen, SCAQMD, Information Management.
Tom Lee, SCAQMD Facts Team.
Will from SCAQMD, Police Reading.
Edwin Goldstein, Torrance Refining.
Dave Leon, Permitting.
Al Baez, BHP.
David Ono, Engineering and Permitting.
David Hauk, Engineering and Permitting. Nishama, Engineering and Permitting.
William Thompson, Operations.
Bill Wong with General Counsel's Office.
Excellent, excellent. Welcome all.
You gotta be over there, Bill.
See?
Or I can, you can move
We're
here.
streamlining the process.
If you want to. So just going over the agenda very briefly. So we want to give you a brief status report on the backlog reduction efforts, talk about the automation progress that we are making on that front. There was a desire to talk about the Title V evaluation plan. We have updated guidelines on change of operator and owner that we want to spend a few minutes on. And then we want to open it to open discussion. I know Dave has a long list of issues, or questions that he wants to bring in. And if any one of you guys would like to bring any other issue, to the table, by all means, this is the time to do it. And if necessary, we can agendize some of those items to our next meeting if we can't go through all of them, or we cannot resolve, all of them today. So I'll take the first item, which is the status report on the backlog reduction effort. We are making good progress. I just have a few slides that I want to show you, and I think my next slide will tell you the whole story. So when we started almost a year and a half ago, and since then our pending application count has been reduced successfully by 45%. So we are making progress in all age and application categories. And basically, we have given ourselves a 2-year target to reduce the pending application backlog by 50%. And I'm happy to share with you, 6 quarters in, we are almost 90%. So we have the last 10% that we hope that we can cover in the last couple of quarters. And we've started seeing the light at the end of the tunnel to the front of it, and it feels great. And in terms of, so we are presenting all this progress on our website. And one thing that you are going to start seeing on the website, I'm showing here the progress made in the last 3 months. We will start taking out of the total pending applications the permit to construct already issued, because those, while they are pending to be converted to permit to operate, the applicant or the stakeholder is not under the same pressure. They can still use those permit to construct as temporary permits to operate up until they get their permit, or up until they install their equipment and source test it and share those results with us before they get their permit to operate. So it makes sense for us to start removing them, and because the remaining ones truly reflects the pending applications, which is a combination of the backlog and also working inventory. So that's basically where we are with regards to the backlog reduction effort. As I said, we are going to push as hard as we can to cross the finish line, the commitment that we made to our board. And I'm telling my staff, actually, we should try to go beyond that and establish a cushion, if possible, in anticipation with the reclaim dismantling that we are going to have a surge of new applications coming in. So we need to prepare for that, and if we do a good job and the surge doesn't happen or it's a lot milder than we think it is, all power to all of us, then we'll all be better off.
Lucky, do you
Yes.
still get about 7,000 permits a year or something like that?
Last year was a pretty good one. We had more than 7,000 close, 800, what was it? I can't remember.
7,900.
Yeah,
As of
7,900.
Yeah.
So it was a
Today.
good year, and this year is even better. I think we are going to exceed that. We are going to go close to 8,000.
Or more than.
And I mean, that's why we are extremely happy, with the progress that we are making. Not only we are processing, those permits, but you have to work even harder, to be able to extract and remove, from the older aging applications.
Do you know why, what are some of the reasons why you're getting an upsurge in permits?
I think it's reflective of the economy. I mean, the economy is doing, gotta knock on wood, it's doing extremely well.
Are they Title V or are they smaller businesses?
All across the board.
All across the board.
All across the board. Yes. Yeah, Judy.
It really shows.
Yeah.
We submit a lot of applications of all different kinds, and we see them getting processed in a normal fashion. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah.
So I want to say that's super important and really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now with the class 3s, those ones that are submitted as existing equipment, and serves as a temporary permit to operate,
Yes.
those are still important to get processed. So
Yes.
what's
So
So-
what we are doing is we are developing a new policy, and that policy is 99% complete. So basically, we'll try for the applications that we can, including the class 3 applications, to consolidate the two-step permitting process, the permit to construct, permit to operate, to one, and give straight a permit to PCPO to a particular applicant, and include their source testing conditions that, source tests that will have to be conducted at a date certain within a given period of time, as opposed to issuing a permit to construct first and then wait for the source test to be conducted and be submitted to us, and then convert that to PO.
right? And I remember when that used to be routine practice, but
Right.
there are some cases where it's important to have a permit to construct
Yes.
before. So will the applicant be able to ask for that
Yes.
before it's just converted?
So there is always a caveat, right, with every policy, and the caveat that we issue to our staff is, look, there'll be exceptions to this controversial projects.
Right. I
Toxic
remember-
emissions.
yeah. I remember some new technologies, and it
New
was-
technologies.
we were not
where
sure
we
it
are
was
trying-
gonna work.
Yes, yeah.
And we
So-
wanted to try it first.
Yes,
Yeah.
so for new technologies where we are trying to come up with emission factoring stuff, it may be necessary to still maintain the two-step
Okay.
process, and yes, that
As
will
long
be
as the
available.
applicant can ask
So,
for that.
yeah. Yeah, so it's not gonna be a rule, it's a policy, I mean, strong policy, but it's within our full expectations. There'll be a lot of exceptions to this rule, and
And that's
sometimes
okay.
makes sense.
That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Good, cool.
To
Dave?
echo Judy's comments, we've noticed the same thing, permits are coming out more quickly, and we really appreciate the efforts, and it's great to see. So my question is, you see your bar is kind of
Yes.
plateauing out.
It is, yeah,
It seems like, I assume that the low-hanging fruit has been picked.
way a long time ago.
So the question really is, especially with reclaim going away and permits that will be coming up, what's kind of the next step?
Yeah.
We've had some ideas on the SCAQ folks as far as standardizing things, having more boilerplates, things like
Mhm.
that. Maybe it'd be good to brainstorm as far as what could we do to make it easier on the applicant, easier on your staff
Yeah.
to get things done quickly.
No, these are the ideas. It's all of the above. Standardization, templates to the extent we can, automation, which is the next item that we are going to cover. It's not going to cut across all different processes and applications, but we are starting in a big way and tackling it on process by process, and to the extent we can develop online permitting tools, we want to develop those. I don't want to steal Amir's thunder.
Please steal
We
the
have no. We have already some success stories. Bill knows about it, and the rest of you guys probably heard about it, and we want to add to them. So it's not one silver bullet; it's multiple different things that we can do, and definitely we started in a big way looking at our outdated policies. The one that I just talked about is something that will unveil very shortly and will help us in a big way. We have been experimenting with it and we have been implementing it on an experimental basis, but now it's going to be a formal policy. We are looking at our public notice notification to see whether we can come up with some de minimis exemption levels, because the way our public notification policy works, if you are close to a school within 1,000 feet, even if you are emitting only one molecule, technically you are supposed to issue a public notice. We are supposed to issue a public notice for you. And I don't know, you can argue whether it makes a lot of sense or not. So we think that by establishing a de minimis level, we can eliminate quite a few of those unnecessary public notifications, So we'll talk a little more about it once we have an idea, what that is. We have some internal ideas that we are discussing internally, but
One thing while we're on the subject,
Yeah.
that kind of dovetails into this, is we're talking at the back to SRC as far as when you come in for, you submit the application, you want to know what back is. And we're still catching up as far as the determinations. But something we talked about as far as when, the permit's being processed, and something is setting new standard, how do we get that out in the public domain quickly and efficiently?
right.
The sooner that's aware, everyone's aware of it, from your staff to people applying for permits, the easier it will be.
Right. So it was an item that we acknowledged in our action plan, and I'll admit we did not make huge progress on that one. To basically relate the information to our back team and update our back guidelines, a lot more frequently than we have been doing in the past. We made some progress. Last year, we updated our guidelines, which was the first big update after how many decades?
Almost 8 years.
8 years. 8 years. Yeah, so hopefully this is not going to be one-off, and we'll wait for another 8 years. So it's.
What I'm suggesting is have some routine.
Yeah.
Rather than wait for.
I agree,
a
100%.
year, decade, whatever. It should be on a routine basis.
So, as you see that, bar chart, coming down or plateauing, that's when our engineers would have a little more time to take a step back and perhaps sift through the permits, identify the bags, relay that information back to our back team, and hopefully, we'll be able
Keep
to
talking about backlog
update
catch,
it,
but I'm
sooner.
also alluding to,
Sooner.
rather than waiting to catch up,
Yeah.
we need to have something in place to say when something does come in, we immediately take care of it.
My glass are foggy, but I think I recognize the hand,
I'm ready to
the-
motion,
yeah.
because motion activates the brain.
Agreed.
Good morning, Rita Luke representing Radtech International, and,
Rita, come up to the table, please, thanks. Just for the mics, thank you.
So we can also send them.
and I'm also a member of the BACT Scientific Review Committee. And so these comments were raised this week at the committee. And one of the things that I brought up was that in the past, long time ago, during the Marty Kay days and the Howard Land days, they used to have a procedure where they would have engineering fill out a form automatically every time they saw a new BACT coming in. And send it to the BACT team, and it would automatically get updated. It seems that now that practice is kind of hit and miss. Some engineers are getting the information over to the BACT team, and some are not.
Okay.
So maybe if a message of encouragement could be
Okay.
sent out, to standardize the process and make it easier for the back team to process the data. The other thing that we came across, at least from the RADTech perspective, as we were looking at some of the permits in your database, was that it was not specific in a lot of cases. The BCATs, the basic equipment categories, had not been updated in a long time. So I raised as an example, for UV Flexo, there's a specific BCAT for UV Flexo. But UV Screen, which is more prevalent actually than Flexo, is under screen printing other. So it's very difficult for the staff in the back team or even in the public domain to be able to figure out what the equipment is when you just got a BCAT. So maybe if the BCATs could be updated a little bit to reflect current new technologies, that would be.
Okay. That's a good suggestion. Okay, go
Maybe,
ahead.
All right, so, I'm here, Dave.
Yeah.
So, with regards to the BACT, I know, David, you have raised this issue many times during the BACT meetings. So for minor source BACTs, we do rely on our BACT guideline. And even within the BACT guideline, there's also specifications that where we could actually deviate from what's in the BACT manual. So that gives us the opportunity on a case-by-case basis where something is a little bit different to make that determination and then make that final determination that whether that's BACT or meets BACT or not. But for major sources, it puts us a little bit in a different situation because for major sources, the BACT is determined at the time when the permit to construct is being issued. So we have to do this layer search. And at that point, it makes it a little bit difficult, even for us, to determine what the BACT is, because we have to go back and start searching and what has been established in the industry before we can come back and say, this is layer. So for minor sources, we have a little bit more wiggle room.
Yeah.
For layer, it's just a little bit more difficult to establish at the beginning when the application is submitted what BACT is. I mean, we do our best. At minimum, it would be what's in the BACT guideline. But then if somebody has established, and the establishment is based on whether it's actually in operation, they have done source tests, then at that point we could say, okay, that is layer.
Right.
Okay.
But, sorry, it's my observation that even within the AQMD to identify what is layer, you know, the
Changes.
different groups are doing different things.
Right.
And because there's not a good flow of communication,
Yeah.
so if you use instead the BACT group as your sort of hub of information, so that there's a library that the staff can go to for consistency
We agree.
and information sharing, it would help streamline
Right.
for the
Right.
staff.
We are working
that
So we're working on it,
Yeah.
we know that, we have slacked off a little bit because of all the other things, and we're working on everything that is being brought up. It's just that, there are just so many hours in a week now. It's not so many hours in a day. So many hours in a week to try to accomplish
I get it.
everything. So
Bill,
have a little patience with us.
Bill, you had your time up. I guess this is an opportune time too to repeat a request that I've made for a long time, and that is to consider, using registration more than permits for a lot of equipment. And I know part of that might be, I'm not discounting your 219 and your 222 equipment, but there's so many different industry segments that are the same, and a donut shop or a hamburger place, a dry cleaner. Now that Perk is on its way out, but I mean, auto body shops. You've seen one, you've been in one, you've been in just about all of them, whether they're Mako or whatever they are. Furniture, not furniture, but window shutter manufacturers that do painting. So spray painting. So I mean, it's pretty much the same. Powder coating is another one. Unless there's virtually no VOC in all powder coatings.
Right.
Unless you've got some plasticizers or elastomers in there. But I mean, other than that, it's very minute.
We don't disagree, and we would love actually
That would
to
reduce the volume.
include as many as we can, to the registration or filing Rule 222 process. there are two caveats. The likely candidates from us, at least is, we want to see the cookie cutter type and very small emission signature.
Yeah.
And the other caveat is, we don't want to see toxics.
Yeah.
When you have toxic emissions, that's one of the, killer items. And to the extent we can identify, actually we want to push things, to the registration. In fact, again, Amir is going to cover some of the automation efforts, that we are moving in that direction. Judy.
Sorry, just a note of caution there, under AB 617,
Hmm.
RACT will be required for anything that has been anything not permitted. So there's a line drawn, if it was permitted since 2007 at BARCT, then new BARCT will not be applied. But if it's not permitted, then it would be subject to any new BARCT. So I think a streamlined permit would be a better approach, because a permit kind of locks in BARCT for that owner-operator. If it's just a registration, I'm not sure that same, then they're gonna be in a do loop of updating BARCT when it gets updated. You know what I mean? So just a note
I
of
don't want
caution
to
on
generalize. No, that's a very good
sorry.
point that you're raising, and I don't want to generalize, but I think we can work something out, even with the registration that Bill is talking about. They do come with some, when we register particular equipment, they do come with some
Conditions.
prefab conditions, I'll say.
Do you remember the streamlined permits? We had conditions and we had
Yes.
provisions for toxics. So it
So
could be
it
like
may
that.
be, like a streamlined permit, or at least we can make that argument,
Right.
So we are not disagreeing with the concept.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I think anything that, we can do and still keep your skirts clean, if you will.
Okay.
So you're following the law, you certainly should explore.
Okay. Well, that's a good segue then to our next item, and speak a little bit about
Automation
automation.
efforts, yeah. Well, there's not that many slides that I had prepared for the automation efforts because we were here during the last meeting that we had, going over what we had accomplished. But I just want to go over what has been done as just a background to what we're planning to do during next year. So when we met in September, we talked about the modules and the forms that we've already have developed. And we told the group that for our 400A, 400C core, and 400 PES forms are now all online, available online that we can use. And we also have been working on the modules for dry cleaning, automotive spray booths, and gasoline dispensing. In fact, we had a demonstration of the dry cleaning module last time around, and we showed what the program is capable of. And during the meeting, we indicated that we were hoping to go live with the dry cleaning module in December. And we also asked for volunteers to help us testing the program. Well, thanks to Bill and his group and also the California Dry Cleaning Association, we had an opportunity to go to a facility to do some testing, and I will show a picture in a little while that the first online permit that we have issued. But we have decided not to release the dry cleaning program live this month because even though the program is functional and it's working, we did some look into it and we were not too happy or too pleased with the ease of use that the applicants were going to experience. So we're pulling it back to make some of the screens a little bit more user-friendly. And once it's done, we will release it and we make it available online. And we're hoping that will be done by end of next month. But the program is functional and it's available and it's working.
So whoever wants to use it, actually they can use it with our assistance. We'll go to their facility or they can come here. It's just a facility ID generation module that is not working at the level we want it to.
Well, I mean, it's functional. It's just not very user-friendly at this point.
Well, the two that we were talking about, I was talking with David yesterday, were the Korean Dry Cleaners Laundry Associate, KDLA, not CCA. But David led me to believe that everything went.
It is because we brought in his facility ID number manually to his shop, and We are determined to continue doing that up until we perfect the system. The rest of it, works beautifully, very easily.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, on the first pass through.
Yeah,
And it's more of a cosmetic.
Yeah.
The program is functional. It's just the cosmetics of it, because the way we look at it was that if the user does not have that wow experience or happy with the first couple of screens, they're just not going to be moving forward. They're just going to say, oh, here's my check and here's my application. You guys do it in-house.
Well,
So-
I had a wow experience just listening to David, when he said, the first one was 25 minutes and the other one was
Yeah.
30 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, you should put that in the LA Times.
Right. And so just to continue, we also said that we're also working on spray booths for automotive industries and also gasoline dispensing. And we're still working on it. We're hoping that those still will be released by end of first quarter next year. And if you flip to your next slide, we have a
I
picture.
just want to make one observation.
Can you identify yourself?
Yes, I'm William Thompson. I'm with operations. I work with in IM coordination. And Amir is striking a great point, and that is that David is a very young person who is
The gentleman who drive the Tesla.
Oh, okay.
What are you talking about, this David or that David?
No, this
No,
one.
he was talking about the Dave Ono, who is no longer a young person.
This David is definitely not a young person. But the David that worked for the Korean dry cleaner was a young person. And Amir observes that we are looking for a delightful experience because we want it used. And so we don't want people to get frustrated with it and then send it in frustration. So that's why it's being pulled back and kind of, the observation is that it's completely usable. For people who are very facile with computers, it's a straightforward process. I mean, it was an absolute truth that the first one took, 30 minutes and the last one took 25. So that's still amazing to get your permit in less than 40 minutes.
No, I'm not being critical, I'm just, and with the people that I represent, I mean, it's their computer dexterity, their computer literacy, certainly isn't going to be up to par for and all of you folks. So
And that's our target
people at the
audience.
table, Yeah.
Exactly. And that's our objective, to bring it down to that level so that they don't need our help.
Yeah.
Right now, through our help, we'll work with anyone who's interested in using the tool. But our ultimate goal is for anyone to be able to use it, at their leisure, from home or from their office, without needing to even interact with us. And we are a few weeks away, from being able to accomplish that.
And when you introduce maybe an ethnic back there, certain ethnicities migrate to certain business segments, then that represents another unique challenge.
Well, we tried to examine that because when we visited the facility, I gently inquired if there was anyone at the facility a little older. And there was no one there. So we tried to target the user experience to what we anticipate the population is for this particular program.
First and second generations are, I think you're going to have more trouble. Third and fourth generation, they're right up there.
Right. So we don't want to mislead you that the tool is not there. It's this latest addition that we made that doesn't quite work as well as we wanted to. So we want to put that one back, improve it, in a few weeks. It will be perfectly, functioning tool.
Well, I mean, it's functioning. It just will give you a better user experience.
So this one is basically your proof?
Yes, here's a proof that we issued the first online permit. But then I also want to give a shout out to our IM department because they've been with us throughout the whole process, and they, we have spent many afternoons and days and nights going over, making sure everything is working properly and as it should be. So what are we planning to do this upcoming year, which would be our phase 2?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, went too far. Go back. The other direction. There you go.
Okay.
So we, during our last governing board meeting, we secured funding for the phase 2 of our automation process. And what we're going to be focusing on during this process is looking at the certification registration equipment, Rule 222 registration equipment, 400EX forms, and application status dashboard. So let me go a little bit more detail with regards to each one of these categories. For the certification registration equipment, we're going to be looking at the equipment that have been certified, and then we'll go through the registration process, and that's mainly the emergency IC engines and also various location soil vapor extraction systems. So those two programs are already part of our certification registration, and we want to make sure it's automated. And frankly, be honest with you, we think that this program, we should be able to go through this really quickly because most of the parts are already there. We just need to include the rest of the requirements, and we should be able to accomplish this. For Rule 222 registrations and 400EX forms, there is approximately more than 23 Rule 222 forms, and there is roughly around 34 different forms for EX, which are the supplemental forms to 400A. We're trying to make them into to web-based forms where the applicant can process them, and these are all part of Rule 222 will be done as part of the process, automation process. The EX forms, we will be using it for online filing, probably either next year or the following year. So we have to develop these forms, specifically the EX forms. There's no ifs or buts or questions about it. We just said, we have to go through the process. But we're not going to wait and give you all the forms at the same time. We're going to be developing them in batches, and the batches we're establishing, which are being used, which one of the forms are being used the most, and those will be released first, and then we're going to go through the process and complete all of them.
So the first item and the second, the certification and registration and Rule 222 forms, actually it cuts across, different industries and different size of facilities, small as well as large, because those equipment are being used by everyone. So it will be useful for everyone. With regards to the 400EX forms, our goal is, once we develop those, and those are going to be smart fillable forms, not just, being able to fill them, and submit them electronically to us, but we'll be able to take that information and have that information populate different databases, here internally. And once we are able to do that, our goal is at that point to get rid of the paper forms if possible and do all the permit application submittal electronically. So stop killing trees, and relying on folders and stuff, do everything, all the process electronically.
One of the issue problems that I know we experienced with some of the early forms is not everything fits in the boxes. We need some customizable fields of some sort. So make sure there's some flexibility, because not all things are what you think they should be, or in the past were. Things change, and so there needs to be some customizable forms.
Right. And what we have done with the 400A form and 400 CEQA or PS forms currently is that we have provided the ability to the user to attach documents outside the form. So there would be a specific area in the forms that will allow you to attach.
Right.
And then it will, if you pick that up, it goes into your hard drive and says, okay, what file do you want to attach? And then you can bring it into there, and then the system will automatically accept that as part of an attachment to the forms that you have already submitted.
Good, right, because when you're working with new technologies or something a little different, it just doesn't fit in the box.
Yeah. I mean, we are very excited about this process. Just a moment, because so we've been working very closely with our friends, in the Bay Area. They too developed some online tools, and it took them, quite a few years. Close to a decade and north of $10 million investment. I mean, because there is no roadmap. You got to go through trial and error up until you get it. And my head is off to them. They stuck with it after several failures. And they managed to get it done, right? Well, sort of. So we are very happy. Well, we are happy with the progress that we have made over here. I mean, we cover a lot of territory in the last 6 to 12 months. And even though we are going through some growing pains, as we describe them and discuss them with you guys with dry cleaning operations, we are there, in less than 12 months, So, and these are growing pains, the lessons learned. We are going to transfer them to this next phase, and within this next phase, we'll move a lot faster than last year. So we are very excited where we are, process-wise, and our goal is to make the list of available online tools and electronic capabilities as long as possible,
And
and as fast as possible.
just to add to Lockheed's statements, failure was not an option. So we are moving at the speed of light, but one thing that we wanted to establish was that we knew the programs are not going to be 100% perfect. If you look for perfection, it's going to take forever to develop. So we figured out that we were going to develop the programs. There might be some issues, with minor issues, not major. We were looking for minor issues. And as we're releasing these programs, we can fix the minor issues. Very similar to what Microsoft does or Apple does when they release their new operating system. It's not a perfect system, but it's functional, it will do the job, and if we have to tweak it, instead of waiting to tweak everything at the beginning, we decided that we're going to move ahead with the process and tweak as necessary. Because, nothing is perfect and nobody's perfect. So that's where the growing pains are about. But, we're going at the speed of light. Again, our hats off to our IM folks. They're there with us in the trenches as we're going through every single one of these processes. And it's not been easy. There has been a lot of long hour meetings, and we will continue to have those until we get all of this stuff up and running.
We are not going to share our dirty laundry with them, right?
No.
That was beautiful.
Yeah,
Just let us know if you need beta testers.
Right.
Well, we still do. I mean, we're still looking for beta testers for
Actually,
dry cleaners.
We did use some beta testers, through Bill,
That's good.
we got through the Korean Association, and California Association. It's essential.
Right.
So it's essential.
And if you, Bill, if you know anybody else who wants to test the dry cleaning program, we're ready to speak for the program to be
Not
tested.
test.
Well,
Get a permit.
get a permit. But it's going to be a little bit of a hand holding.
I've got a board of directors meeting next Wednesday,
Yeah.
so, and this is on the
Please.
agenda, so.
Continue encouraging them.
Yeah.
And when we
Well,
release.
he has a- he has a-
Oh, okay.
I mean, for me at least, the forms have been fantastic. I love the fact that smart forms you can get in there. But taking off what Judy was saying, sometimes when you enter data, and let's say you put it in text format, and it seems like the forms have been set up in, let's say, a numeric format, and you put in the text format, because maybe I wrote in, 15 gallons, and I wrote the word gallons in, or something. It tends to lock up, so I would only ask, just to make it a better system, is if there is a mechanism by which we can, it doesn't need to be a numeric, I don't know if you guys use the data as a numeric download into a database, it seems. It sounds like you are. But if it does not need to be, it would be great, so that sometimes because what happens is I'll write 15 gallons and it will lock up my computer completely. And I have to shut down my computer. So I would only ask that if it does not need to be,
While you are filling it out.
while I'm filling it out.
No.
Well, that's my only
course.
thing. But the smart form is great because you can put it in there.
Point well taken. The gentleman to your left is listening to you very intently. And the lady to your right, is also listening very intently. Aura and Saad, Saad works for Aura, and their team is basically the ones behind.
But I love
designing all the systems that you're talking about. Yes, Ms. Stark.
I may have missed it, but did you say when the gasoline dispensing online function?
First quarter.
First quarter.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
a
First quarter.
Right.
and this is only for
Is
gas
that ready?
stations.
Is it ready to go?
Gas stations,
We
we're
are
very
testing
close to
it.
You're
having
testing
it.
it right now?
Yeah, we have the prototype.
Okay.
There'll be beta testing.
Absolutely, we
Yeah,
need assistance
Yeah.
for beta testing.
Let us
There
know
are
about that.
a few improvements that we have to make to reflect the new emission factors. Remember, we amended a 1401 not too long ago? So we need to reflect those because the prototypes were designed around the older 1401. So there are minor adjustments, but they have to be done. So we are testing internally, and very soon, we'll be able to go public.
And
At least for beta
the
testing.
automotive spray booths also?
Same,
Also
same.
same.
First quarter?
Yeah, and we need a lot of help with that one too. If I
Speaking of
can-
emission factors, weren't we waiting on ARB to do that update?
Yeah, but we are not holding our breath.
Yeah.
So we'll probably release them, even if they don't get to the bottom of it. We'll release what do we have.
And then
And
update it.
And that's one of the beauties of these programs. We can go in there and easily update some of the stuff that specifically the emission factors for the gas stations.
one more
Right.
bullet that we didn't cover.
No, the
Can
application
we go-
status dashboard, yes, we'll go quickly through it. You know, we have secured fund. Oh, I thought it was still up there. I know this has been a request from everybody and also our board, governing board. We have secured the fundings for it. We're gonna start be working on it. So the dashboard basically is going to provide a matrix that shows where you are within 180 days after we have deemed the application complete. And also will provide you where we are as far as the processing of the application. So if it's stuck, there would be a line over there that says, you know, need additional information from the applicant. And that's where the process has stopped with that particular process. Or whether we are just moving through the processing. The whole goal with the application reduction program is to be able to issue the permits, you know, less than 180 days after the applications have been deemed complete. So we're using that matrix as 180 days as where we are within the processing time.
So you're still estimating that there's a 6 months wait for?
No, not necessarily for everything, but some applications may be. So it's just where you are in that process. But you know, if you get the 180 days, you know, you're in the red zone, and that's red flags for me and my staff that, you know, why is this application in the red zone? And there better be a very good reason why we're at that stage.
Moving forward, obviously, we'll try to push the envelope and bring the numbers even, as I said, you know, lower than what we had committed to our board to the extent we can. But also, we want to take some time and maybe improve our metrics and not necessarily rely on the pending application count, but also start refining some of our timing metrics, you know, and establishing now not to exceed, you know, days to process a particular permit, and keep pushing the envelope on that front. So you'll see us, we want to experiment with a few concepts and bring them over here, you know, to you guys in our future meetings. So you'll see us talking and discussing a lot more about that, you know, in our future meetings.
Well, you know, you guys picked up, what was it, $4 million?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, you certainly have a financial incentive to speed up the process because they don't cash the check. They're held as kind of a holding account. So, you know, you probably got another $4 to $6 million waiting for you.
I wish you were right, but I'll tell you what, as that column, as that bar, you know, shrinks, obviously the additional application that we are processing, the inventory gets less and less. So that number, the dollar figure, will get smaller and smaller.
No, I know, eventually it will.
But the first year, you're right. You know, I can't remember. Was it $3 or $4 million extra? $4 million, 3.9 something. You know, that we brought it. Oh, yeah, nothing to sneeze about, right? Yes, Judy.
As you do that, which would be excellent, maybe a lesson learned from another district to be left unnamed.
Okay.
They have this, you know, after it's been deemed complete, the clock is ticking on the permit engineer, and they watch that clock. But as a result, the first thing the permit engineers do is they immediately send out a letter. It's incomplete, you know, and they'll check any of the boxes that, you know.
Just to cover.
To stop the clock, okay?
Got it.
So their first goal is to stop the clock, and it's kind of defeating as an applicant because you know no matter what you do, you're gonna submit your app and you're gonna get back a rejection letter. I mean, it feels bad, okay?
Yeah.
So one of the things that Amir mentioned is the biggest challenge, and we experience the same in preparing a permit app, is getting the data, right? That's the biggest, you know, slowing point.
Yes.
So as you do this, think about how is it we better educate and get the data needed at the beginning of the
Yes.
process.
Yes.
You're gonna have automated forms, but also think through what's on those forms. We've been
Yes.
using the same forms for 100 years, right?
Yeah.
But think through what's really needed to
Yeah.
process the app.
Mhm.
Things like,
Yes.
you don't necessarily ask for a process description, but the first thing the permit engineer's gotta do is write a process description.
Yes.
Now, obviously, those of us who are CPPs, we do that,
Mhm.
right? You know, so
Yeah.
think about things that you can,
Mhm.
that piece together
Mhm.
this goal
Yes.
so that you get the information to facilitate what the permit engineer
Got it.
needs to do.
It's an excellent suggestion,
Yeah.
and I don't know what the answer is, how to do it yet, but we don't want to digress here, one of the ideas that we have, that we want to do is, remember the permit processing handbook? That
Yes.
is, I don't know how many decades old,
Yeah.
so, what, how many?
No, I think it was 87.
87?
Yeah.
Only 30 years, hey.
Yeah, well, it is an educational piece,
an
and it's a
educational
better
piece.
guidelines. Now, and look
So-
at Bay Area, they have their
Okay.
permit guidelines,
Okay.
right? It goes
So,
together with that.
So let me tell you what our goal is. My goal is once we cross the finish line, so to speak, is we want to start. We have 10 different permit units, issuing, processing, evaluating, and issuing permits. We want to pick, some of the most popular processes, and start developing process descriptions, permit evaluation processes, take us through the calculations, and do it every quarter, work on one process, by year's end, each unit will have multiple, you put them together, and all of a sudden you have a volume, or several volumes of simple permit evaluations,
Right.
some permits that we can use to train our own engineers. We can put it on our web, can make it available, to our stakeholders, so that you guys have some idea how we go about it, processing those permits. And we all of a sudden, we start, speaking the same language.
Right, that's
Yeah.
right. Standardized conditions, remember the
Yeah.
conditions book?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's-
Does
so
help.
this
Does
is
help, yeah.
in very high on our to-do list.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, we're moving at the speed of light, and have patience with us. We're running out of time. But one thing I wanted to emphasize, that all of the stuff we're doing is only for non-major sources at this point, because we haven't resolved the Cromer issue with EPA, so we're not looking at the major sources, specifically the Title V facilities for now. And hopefully, once we come to finish up the processes, we can start looking at the Cromer a little bit more closely and resolve the issues that we have to deal with.
But nothing is unsolvable.
No, it's just a matter of negotiating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I just had a quick question on the automation process itself.
Yes.
So as you go through the forms, because I haven't seen them because we don't have the processes that are being looked at right now. But I'm wondering, in terms of like location of equipment or something that might trigger a public notification, is that something that as you go through and answer questions, it kicks you out of the
Yes.
system, kind of directs you towards?
Yes, even with those online tools, with the dry cleaners and the spray booths and the gas stations, if you are close to a sensitive receptor or close to a school, it will still allow you to fill out everything electronically and submit them to us electronically. You won't be able to print your permit at your printer.
And then
So-
it directs it
Yes,
to, or assigns
it will go it will come electronically to us, we'll take it through the public process, and then we are gonna issue the permit. So it still helps, because everything is gonna be done electronically, it's just that it will kick it back, to one of our engineers. If you happen to be, to choose your location right, and you are away from a school, man, you are pushing that button and you are printing your own permit at your own home or office.
In fact, the program identifies all the schools near you.
Yeah.
So even if you're not aware of it, the program goes in there and says, here are the schools near you. Okay, we just want you to be aware of it. Even if you mark no, it will say, here's your schools near you.
Okay.
All right, so this was supposed to be a
Did
really
we cover
quick
enough
through.
from the automation?
That
So
was
it
only
gives you a
2 slides.
flavor of where we are, so
Yeah, it's really
we are
good.
excited,
That's
and
really good.
Okay.
So the next item, we want to talk a little about our Title V. We talked about in our prior meetings that we were negotiating with EPA to address their audit findings.
Right.
They sent us a letter. They go, where's your plan? Where's your commitment? So we had a decent negotiation. We made them an offer that was hard to reject, I guess. They accepted it. So Amir is going to take you through it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, again, we brought to this subcommittee, back in March of last year where we were with the EPA as far as their evaluation of our Title V program. And a couple of the slides that you see that I have put on here, it's basically what we had presented in the previous meeting. So the first slide is, just do this.
Got it.
Yes, got it. Oh, maybe too far. Okay, so just a background that EPA, as requirement from their Office of Inspector General, was required to look at the Title V programs for every region that they had and make sure the programs are being developed and implemented properly. And 2016, EPA Region 9 did an evaluation of our program. So the evaluation was done at different stages. First, they sent us a questionnaire to respond. That was in 2015, so to get a better understanding of what we're doing with our program. Then they looked at their own Title V permit library that they had at their offices. They did visit us in March of 2016, and we received their report in September of 2016. Even though we thought that our program was basically flawless and perfect, they were able to find some minor issues, and that's where they identified in their letter. And of course, we were negotiating with them, and we finally sent them a work plan back in August of this year on how to address their concerns. So what were their concerns? I think we have discussed this before at this committee. It was the statement of basis. They wanted a much more robust statement of basis for initial renewals and revisions. They were not happy with the way we have done references to the NESHAPs and NSPS in our conditions, where we just say this equipment should be operated in compliance with a particular NESHAP or NSPS. They were concerns that our Title V permits are not available online. And even though they were quite pleased with our community outreach, they still wanted us to do a little bit more. And with regards to the EPA 45D review period, they had the concern that if the facility goes to public notice, they didn't really want to start their 45-day commenting period until they have received all the comments that they have received and also responses. And last but not least, they were looking at our policies for reclassification of a source as a synthetic minor. So what did we do with our work plan and after our negotiations? So for statement of basis, we basically approached EPA with a phased-in process. We told them that, we have way too many Title V applications, and we can't just do everything that you guys want to do right now. So here's what our plans are, and let us know if you agree or disagree with us. So for initial Title V permits, we agreed that we will do an expanded statement of basis if a facility comes into the Title V universe starting next year. So we figured, on the average, we got 1 or 2 facilities that will come into a Title V universe, so that should be not a problem with us, and we should be able to handle that. For renewals, which was our main concern when we were looking at this process, was that we have closely around 384 facilities, and all of these facilities are getting renewed every 5 years. And depending on which year it falls, we are looking at between 40 to 70 Title V renewals a year. And when we did an analysis, we came to the conclusion that depending on the complexity of the permit could take anywhere from 50 to another 150 hours before we can do the expanded state of basis. So we proposed to EPA that we will start the renewal process with the expanded statement of basis, but we'll do it in a small increments. So we have given the EPA the proposal that we will do 10% of the renewals for that particular calendar year. We will do expanded statement of basis. And that's what we proposed, and that's what they have agreed to. For modifications, yes?
Who gets
We do.
No, but which facilities?
Oh, it's
Random.
random.
Are being renewed this year?
Well, right. So again, it's 10% of the total
Yeah.
facilities for that calendar year.
Yeah.
So we have the option of picking and choosing.
Okay.
But let me finish up. I tell you what we're doing right now, so it gives a better understanding to everybody how we're proceeding with the process. For modifications, we told EPA that we'll only do expanded statement of basis for de minimis significant and significant revisions. We told EPA that for minor revisions, since there is no increase in emissions or there is no NSPS or NESHAPs that are involved in the process, we don't see any reason why we should deviate from our current process with a shorter statement of basis. And it seems like we had a meeting with them in September of this year. They came down, we did our proposals, they've already seen our proposal. We showed them how we're planning to do this and the format that we're going to be using. And they seem to be happy and agreeable to what we have proposed. But what we're doing right now is that, we're not waiting for 2018. We have already started with the process because, we want our engineers to get with the idea that they need to do this. So some of the revisions that are already going to EPA have expanded statement of basis that shows what they want. And with the renewals, we said at minimum we'll do 10%, but doesn't mean that we can go beyond that. So we will do as much as we can, but we have promised EPA that we do at least 10% of the permits for each calendar year with the expanded statement of basis.
So the 10-year schedule may sound to a reasonable person, a bit too elongated, but we told our friends at EPA, look, this is going to slow us down, and we don't want to do anything that will jeopardize the progress that we are making with the backlog reduction effort. It's our top priority. With the 10%, it may sound as elongated, but that's what we can commit at this point. If we can do better, as Amir says, we'll try. But again, we don't want to shoot ourselves on the foot,
Sorry, will modifications, will you be doing statement of basis for the entirety of?
No.
Just for the modifications?
Just for that project.
Okay, good. Okay.
Right.
I was thinking, oh.
No. But actually, what we did with that, the expanded statement of basis, they were happy. I mean, all these years they've been happy with our engineering evaluation. So we just basically repackaged the engineering evaluation, and we added some more items to it that they were looking for, and they seem to be amenable to what we have proposed.
By the way, this won't impact refineries because we've already been doing that, with the refineries for many, many years. It's all the non-refinery, guys.
Yeah, but the
rest
refineries.
of the 26,997.
Well, no, there's it's the rest of the there's 384 facilities in Title V. So for the 374 facilities, we have to go to this. The refineries, you guys, that's fine.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm curious for this process. I think San Joaquin would be in the same boat. How did they respond to this?
To be frank with you, Bay Area and San Joaquin, I don't know about San Joaquin. I know Bay Area is already doing this. I think San Joaquin Valley as well.
I think they are.
Yeah.
I think they are.
Yeah, but you know what the difference is though is? If you ask them what is your Title V universe, it's a small subset of what we are.
Yeah, I
So
didn't know if
to us, it translates, to a lot of work, to them,
Because it's so much work,
Yeah.
how much does EPA really need it, especially since we have a lower threshold out here than nationwide? Is it
Yes.
really necessary for 10 tons?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have more Title V facilities than all states except Texas.
Just in our little jurisdiction. So, but like I said, they were amenable to what we had proposed when we talked with them in September, and we are putting the work plan into, at least for the statement of basis for right now, into action. For high-level incorporation by reference, we told EPA we will use the same approach as we did with the statement of basis. Permit availability, originally we thought we were going to be able to release them all by the second quarter of 2017. We have hit some issues, and we're looking at the second quarter of 2018. The problem that we have is that our Title V's are in two different formats. One is in a reclaim format, and one is in the alternate format, which was as a result of the recommendations of this subcommittee. And it has revision numbers. So we are looking on how to automate this. We have a plan in place. In fact, we're going to be probably starting experimenting with two of our permitting teams and go put them through the process. So have not as many Title V applications for renewals or for the Title, I don't have that many Title V applications, period, and see how that process is going to work. One thing that we're really excited is that, if we are able to put all of our Title Vs online, then we will be able to give you a complete Title V permit every time we have made a revision. And every time we make a revision, we'll be able to archive that entire Title V permit. So then, there would be a history of all the activities that have occurred, going from one revision to another revision, instead of us or you or the facilities trying to go back and forth, trying to figure out what happened at what time. And the other great part of it is that we will probably be looking into stop printing the permit and sending the permits electronically to the facilities. So it will help us, with the reduced amount of paper that we need to print every time we do a Title V permit, let's say for a refinery, because some of the refinery permits are extremely large.
Judy has a
Awesome, sorry, I seem to be the only one putting my attention too much.
No, go ahead,
today.
please, I want to know.
But one of the things that was a big issue some years ago, and maybe you can tackle it at the same time, is when a new permit was issued, it wasn't always readily apparent what was changed. The revisions weren't readily apparent, and maybe with an electronic version, the changes may be flagged more. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you brought it up. It might be a little bit difficult for the first go around, but we can definitely put it on as the.
Before it was impossible.
Yeah.
So, but as you move forward with electronic, maybe it becomes more possible.
Yeah. Well, we have a tight deadline with EPA. So that's a great idea. Actually, what we were planning to do was on the emails that we'll send out that the Title V permit is attached. I mean, right now we send a letter, but with the email we were going to identify what has been changed in what section, because that's what's in the letter right now. But the letters get lost, and that might be something.
The letters get lost, and also there are sometimes errors, and then people don't figure it out till later. It becomes a compliance issue problem.
Correct.
So it would be nice if there were an electronic.
Okay.
Yeah. We can put that on the list of things to do. It just.
I mean, look, even if we can, it's a good suggestion. If we can get it done, with this phase, we'll try to do it in the subsequent phase. I mean, every electronic improvement goes through, development stages, and we'll put it in the list. It's a good suggestion.
In fact, there's a big growing pain with this process because there's a lot of things that we've done differently for different facilities, and our biggest hurdle is the compliance plans that goes into the Section I of these permits, and trying to figure out how we're going to incorporate those into the permit, because every team has done it a little bit differently. But we think we have a plan in place, and we should be able to roll it out.
You got a question, Art?
The electronic idea is a fantastic idea. As far as the compliance ones goes, we literally print them out, PDF them, scan them, and then combine them together. Personally, we just take the permit, our permit is of course thick. The paper just goes into a filing cabinet. We work with the electronic. So if we went completely electronic, PDF and the XML file, I think that saves so much paper and so much headaches. It would be fantastic. Good.
Yeah, we also use.
I remember there is a function in XML to compare two versions.
Correct.
You guys have
Right, so what we do, that's correct. So we have actually a tool that is, you take the old XML, the new XML, and then you do a comparison, and literally it will show you, it'll line out what was removed, it will underline in blue what was added, so.
Right, but a lot of people don't have that capability, and so that's why it would be nice when the SCAQMD sends it to them, they can go, these were highlighted are the changes, or something.
Maybe we can just include the tool.
So, what's that?
Maybe we can just include the tool.
Yeah, or include the tool.
I think
Microsoft
has a new
Okay.
app that's available that does
Well,
that.
let us look into it. We're short on time because there's a 380. One of these permits needs to get ready to go out online. But we'll definitely look at the XMLs, and also if you can do it with this revision or with this release, we'll do it. If not, we'll wait until the next release.
One second question I had is, and I didn't see it up there, was the CBI issue that's come
Yeah.
up.
Yes.
What kind of,
Well,
is that even like,
It is an issue, it's not
Question.
necessarily, it is.
It's a big question.
It's not necessarily a Title V audit issue,
Right.
but it is an issue between us and EPA and you
right,
guys that we are trying to
right.
figure out the process.
Last time around, we included a list of items that we were going to discuss,
Right.
and we put them in a note that this is not a Title V, but it is an issue that everybody needs to be aware of.
And have we, Danny, we are still
We're still negotiating.
negotiating?
It's a policy that EPA has that basically go back to the law.
Uh-huh.
And they are holding strong to it.
Yeah, okay. So, and it stems from the fact that the feds consider CBI very differently than how the state is considering it. So what we consider here as CBI information, they go, nope, we gotta put it out in the public domain, And so that's where we are having an issue. So we are trying to figure out a new system of communication between us and the company, and EPA when they review our Title V permit application submittals. We are close though. I mean, I think
We have a process.
we have a process that hopefully is going to get finalized and we'll be able to.
I think we discussed the
100%.
process last time.
Yeah.
It really hasn't changed that much, but we're hoping that EPA would work a little bit more with us.
So are we waiting basically for their thumbs up to the process? Is that what is holding us back?
No, that's their
No,
process
they
right now.
dictate the process
Yeah.
to us. So,
Yeah, there's point that sometimes they just dictate.
it's a dictate.
So we are done then?
Unless we can change the law, that's how they see it.
Okay, all right. Okay.
All right.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Are you hoping to complete this prior to reclaim sunset? Because you mentioned that some of these are reclaim facilities, some aren't. Because I know once sunset begins, some of them are going to end up being hybrids.
Oh, you mean uploading them to the web and stuff?
No, I
Well-
mean the facilities themselves,
Right.
because some of their equipment will be out of reclaim, some will
Well,
still be.
it all depends on the format of the permit that we're going to go with.
Okay.
If we decide to continue with the facility permit for the reclaim facilities that are coming out of the program, because, converting it from the facility language back to the alternate format, which was our regular permitting, it's not that easy. Because, it took us a long time to convert it into that language, and now we have to backtrack and taking it out of that language. I refer to it as putting it back in English. It's just not something that we can easily do. It's going to take a lot of effort, and again, we're hoping that and we're really glad to see that we're taking facilities out of reclaim in phases, so we can actually do some experiments and see how long is it going to take us to be able to do that. And if it becomes to the conclusion it's going to be too time consuming, we're just going to keep them in the facility permit for now until we have a little bit more time on our hands to go back and take a look at
There
the
is a lot of
facility permit.
incentive.
10% a year. There you go.
Hey, I love that.
Yeah, that's
I love that. Hey, now that we established the precedents, right? Why not, right? I love that. So there's a lot of incentive. I'll come back to you, Susan. There's a lot of incentive for us to keep the facility permit format,
Okay.
at least for the foreseeable future.
So how are you going to have just confused here. If you're going to have a reclaim facility with a facility permit, then you've got this hybrid where you've got 1 or 20 pieces of equipment that are in 1146 or 1146.1 or 1147 or something else.
We already have that.
Yeah.
It's
So
not
how
all
are
of
you
the,
gonna
when we
handle
developed the
that?
Title V program initially,
Yeah.
everything came out in facility format, facility permit format. So there are some Title V facilities that are not in reclaim, but they're in facility permit format. So it should be, we should be able to work around the, that restrictions and still maintain the facility permit format.
At some point.
I'm thinking about the poor guy who's worried about getting a ticket. I guess that's my.
No.
That's the bottom line.
I mean, at some point, you fast forward in multiple years, we'll need to harmonize this thing and have just one type of permit, whether it's facility permit or whether it's equipment permit. Because right now, we have 3 different types. We have the equipment permit, we have the facility permit, the Title V, we have the reclaim one. But at least in the interim, to minimize the damage, we want to do as few changes as possible, as we can get away with it and still hold, the permit applicant whole. Yeah. At some point, and that will buy us some time, to slowly migrate, everyone,
And I love the
to
10%.
one.
You know, for the average user, the plain English version is so much easier to understand and follow. So if you have to make a decision for the long term, and even if it is slowly done, I think over 10 years would be beautiful to have everybody back to where they could understand what their conditions are. It's pretty hard to go, okay, I go here and then I go 10 pages back for this condition and then another 5 pages for the next condition. It's really hard to then know what am I doing for this piece of equipment.
I think the current proposal is not to transition facilities that are hybrid, in other words, subject to reclaim, subject to command and control. They'll be transitioned out when they're fully subject to command and control.
Well, I'm probably whistling in the wind, and I don't see anybody from enforcement here, but I would sure hope that there would
Do you want us to bring us one?
a little forbearance during this transition period, as far as facility owners are concerned.
Would there be a good opportunity to get enforcement to discuss some of these? Because I've been beating the bushes on enforcement, and it seems like there is a bit of a change in the way enforcement is looking at things. I don't know how well corresponds to some things we're talking about.
Well, I know they did participate when we hold the working group meetings, the reclaim transition working group meetings, they're right in the audience, normally we don't get into that level of detail with this group, so we didn't invite anyone, but in the future we could, it's a separate meeting maybe, I don't know.
Or we can bring him in and those specific
Really?
questions you want to ask.
Yeah, I don't know what
You're gonna put, your enforcement manager.
No, he doesn't
I
have
was
that.
one before.
Yeah.
The only thing you're gonna get from compliance is that they will consider using enforcement discretion.
Yeah.
So they're
I
not
think that's
ever
what we
going
was
to put
asking.
anything in writing saying that this is okay, we won't hold you responsible during this transition phase. So I can tell you right now, enforcement will consider using enforcement discretion. And that's it.
Well, even that would be helpful at the moment. From
Really?
Kind of what
Then
I've been
you can
observing.
consider it said.
I think what you as stakeholders, you'll need to do, depending on how things evolve, you can raise this issue and ask for the same ask before our board, so that, both the board, the executive officer, and, our enforcement team, they're all on board, and we are all on the same page. So there'll be plenty of opportunity.
I for one would be a little reluctant to stand up in the auditorium and talk to the board with Wayne sitting right over there, and we haven't had a chance to talk with him.
Oh, no,
first.
and that's not
So,
what I'm suggesting. No, you should
yeah.
talk to Wayne first,
Yeah.
But everyone has to be at the same page, because even if I'm the executive officer, and I'm assuming, I don't want to speak for Wayne, but I'll be reluctant to exercise enforcement discretion without the board being fully aware of it. So all of us, board, staff, stakeholders will have to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Susan. Oh, Susan, I'm sorry, yeah.
I'm going to ask, currently, we're getting some permit conditions that still include RTCs. You have to have so many
Yes.
pounds to
Yes.
operate this
Uh-huh.
equipment. So as we go forward, I know we'll have our own refinery reclaim rule, but assuming, there will be phase-in over time of all the requirements. I mean, how's that gonna work when some conditions are tied specifically that you can't operate unless you have so many RTCs?
Time will tell.
That's on the record.
Right? Somehow. Moving one cap.
Very good question, Susan. next time I'll invite my friends from Planning and Rural Development, and maybe they'll shed some light. But the short answer is, we are all working on it. I don't think anyone has the straight answer to all those questions. And the more we start thinking about those things, the list of questions is getting longer and longer. I'm cautiously optimistic we'll figure out the answers, but I don't have a short answer.
The scary thing is, the more time, we get more questions, but the closer to the rules being promulgated.
You hear, the clock ticking at the back of your.
Well, in what,
ear.
about 3 weeks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
starting the first
Rules are going
rules,
to the board.
2001, 2002.
Yeah, so I think the first rule basically will telling the world that we are no longer going to be accepting any new
2001.
additions
Yeah.
To the confirm,
2002
which is
starts
okay.
freezing
Yeah,
RTC.
yeah. Look, at some point, the RTCs will be completely meaningless, right? As we transition to, and they'll disappear from your permit
Yeah, at some point.
at some point.
Yeah.
But we don't know what that point is and whether there will be a role for the RTCs to play in the interim, especially as it comes to new source review. And we are haggling with EPA how we are going to do this transition, and nobody has.
How did the call go yesterday?
Yeah, there was supposed to be EPA plan.
Beautifully.
Oh dear.
Was fruitful.
We agreed to have another call in early January, okay?
Before the rule is passed?
The rule will, those two rules don't necessarily address the new source review issue. Most of the call was invest on new source review issue, and basically we spent most of our time refreshing Region 9's memory and how the reclaimed new source review worked in relationship to Command and Control Reg 13 new source review program. So there was a good exchange, back and forth, but it's not something, again, that we can resolve in just one phone call, so there will be multiple of those, and they will probably intensify.
So no discussions about NOx and stocks, PRCs or anything like that?
Plenty of discussion, but no resolutions yet. Yeah.
It's going to be challenging years.
What?
It's going to be challenging years.
And we'll go in more detail at the next working group meeting. When is it?
It's in January, but it's
Oh,
gonna
wow.
be, it's gonna be the first ones where it's the EGF and refinery discussion versus the larger discussion.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, there are a few things that we are trying to see whether we can do programmatically, so that we can minimize any potential disruption or impact, and we can smooth out the transition. It's a new concept for them. So there were all sorts of questions about, okay, how are we going to demonstrate equivalency? There are a lot of questions. Yeah. So, where are you?
Well, we were still on slide number 3.
This was supposed to be a 2-minute.
Yes. Well, it still is. If I. All right. So let's continue.
Discussion, 2 minutes.
So the next item is that they had identified was community outreach. They were just, they were happy with what we were doing. They just wanted us to do a little bit more, and we have agreed to work with them to do a better outreach to linguistically isolated communities, and that's where we had left it. Again, for the EPA 45-day review, I briefly went over it earlier that they did not want to start their clock for 45-day review until they had received all the comments and our responses. If there was a public notice, we've already agreed to do that. In our emails that are going to them, we've already making a statement that, if there was a public notification, we're not going to, you don't have to start your 45-day clock until we have given you any responses or comments, and we have accepted that process. So
it would be 75 days for.
If there was a significant revision where there would be a public notice, or if it's a PSC permit. So it only is limited to those operations where there is actually a public notice. So those would be the only two categories that they will be.
And I want to give a shout out to EPA. When excuse me, when we ask them for an expedited review, they've been great so far.
Yes.
I mean, they've delivered.
Yeah, they go out of their way to help us when we actually request an expedited review because of the nature of the process. Now, we don't go to EPA and ask for expedited review every single time. It has to be an environmental reason, a benefit. Otherwise, if we start asking for expedited review for everything, then they're just gonna say no.
So it'll be initial Title V's and significant revisions.
Yes. Or if it's significant, and the PSD, if there is, but then at that point it might be a significant revision anyways. Pardon me? De minimis, we don't do public notice.
So,
That's what, yeah, that's.
so basically the thought process would be we'd have to go through the 30 days. Then if it is a mechanism where we can ask for expedited review, theoretically you could get the 45, maybe in 15 or something like that. So
Right.
maybe back to the 45 days.
The problem is that, this comment and response period, let's say for something that's very elaborate permit, like a PSD issues, with the refineries, for example, it just drags on a little bit longer than what we would like to see. But that's just because of the nature of the comments that we receive and the responses that we have to provide. All right, reclassification as synthetic minor source. So we have agreed to develop guidelines. Now we have our own guidelines. I'm sure most of you are aware of it. There's Rule 3008 that sets a specific set of guidelines, basically looking at the last 12 months if you had 50% of the PTE. And then we also have our internal policy. And I know David's going to say, I hope you guys put that online so we can see it. And we are going to do that.
And Rita will say, I can't find it.
And Rita will say, I cannot find it. So we know about this.
I used to be able to
Am I
find
right?
it though, with the old website.
Right. So the other way that we take a Title V facility out of the universe is if we look at your AER, if you're at 80% for the last 5 years, then we'll take the facility out of the Title V universe. So those are the two mechanisms that we have in place. But they just want to see centralized, written in a policy, and have it available to all of the engineering staff, which we have agreed to do so. And then we will put it online. It's coming. We know that everybody wants to see all of our policies and guidelines on the website, and that is in the plans. Just a little bit more time.
Are you thinking doing it incrementally as you have a new policy or doing
Yes,
it like a whole?
definitely. No. I think it would be more of an incremental because we are working on some of the policies right now that we are updating, and hopefully with the updated versions we can put them online, and then we could see what we have decided to do. And
But
if
on
you have any
this one,
concerns.
so we are not considering major policy shift.
No. It's not a major policy. It's just that it's not written in a document.
Yeah, it's just a matter of formalizing and putting it out there in the public domain.
Right. Because 3008 is already on our rule book. Everybody knows about it. It's just that 80% of the PTE is not written.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to put it on the notice, on our policy, and make it available.
Are you talking about the Title V guidelines? Or are they still in draft form, right?
Well,
The
the reason it's in the draft format is because it's a living document. So we never want to finalize it, so that's why you will say it's still in draft format, because if there's something comes up, we make changes to it. Although we haven't made any changes to it in the last many years. Couple years, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes my presentations on the
Title V.
Title V.
So,
No more questions? If there's any items that would you like me to make clear?
are we good?
Some others?
No, there's one
No,
more.
there's one more item.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
I may have to set up another meeting for you, Dave.
You could. I can make it short.
And I'm not being facetious, chances are if we are gonna run out of time, we can always, set something up. You can relate to the items very quickly today, and we can discuss in more detail at our next meeting.
Well, I think, when we have looked at it, we can talk
There's
about it.
one item,
Item left that I need to just.
oh, you're
briefly-
covering it.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
covering it, but it's not actually, it's going to be a very short, quick, we don't even have a slide prepared for it. Basically, as
You
you.
got a copy of this
Yes,
updated.
I hope everybody got a new copy of it. We developed guidelines for change of operator and owner guide, many years ago, back in the 80s, and that guidelines are in the CPP manual, and it's on our website. Because of the changes to the corporate regulations and the way facilities are developing, corporations under corporations, there were some questions and concerns that have been raised, and we wanted to address that. So we worked very closely with our general counsel, and Mr. William Wong, our principal deputy district counsel, is here, and our general counsel has prepared a new set of guidelines that we're going to be using to determine whether a facility has gone through a change of operator or ownership, or has it been just a name change. And I have provided you guys a copy of this. This stuff is also already on our permit streamlining website, and hopefully we'll be utilizing it from this point on. And Bill, I don't know if you want to add
Let
anything
me add a
else to
couple
it.
things. Yeah, one of the key items here is the chain of ownership requirement. That's actually in Health and Safety Code Section 42301. So because of that, we actually had to consult with corporate counsel. Unfortunately, none of us have terribly experienced with corporate law, so we actually went to outside help, and they've helped us draft these guidelines. So I think they're fairly robust, and it indicates his feelings as to when there should be a change of ownership. And so we've incorporated that in the guidelines.
I got a question, Bill, and it right now it's just hypothetical, but
Sure.
what is this new tax reform bill that's wending its way through Congress now going to do to the way many companies are going to be structured?
Well, it hasn't quite passed yet.
No, well, I know that, but I mean.
He's optimistically assuming.
when
There's some little.
you talk about change of ownership or how companies now that are structured, some of them will go to LLPs or LLCs or S corporations or anything. Is that going to affect?
Well, if it does, we'll have to obviously re-examine the change of ownership and again consult with our corporate counsel.
Especially in, again, high-tech states like
Right,
California.
sure.
There'll be many changes, you're right,
Yeah.
assuming that it will pass, but we don't.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just say it's a hypothetical.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, they're changing all the requirements as it's going to be
I know,
released today.
right.
We'll see what they have in there.
Right, Judy, you had a question.
First, I want to say thank you for putting this together.
Oh, I know,
This
you
is-
guys have
this
been
is-
waiting for it,
yeah,
eagerly waiting
yeah,
for it.
It's
Yes,
on my
right.
to-do list for a few
Really?
years, of,
Right.
we need this,
Okay.
because it really is a very important thing.
Sure.
Companies, we're always at the tail of the end of the dragon. We don't, somebody's made the deal
Right.
on
right,
the
way
East
back
Coast,
then.
and we have no idea what's happened, but suddenly there's this change, and of course the local people say, oh, it's just a name change, and we go, whoa, 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 because you either can lose your permits or not.
Sure.
It's really a big, and if you go through the change of ownership, it means all the permit applications get canceled. You have to re-permit, you have to submit new applications. It's a big deal. It's a
Yeah, it's a
big
big deal.
cost difference. It's a big effort difference. For the permit engineers, it's a big thing. So it really is important to clarify it. But the one thing that still is stuck in my mind is, don't we need a rule change? Because doesn't the rule say merger is not included in a change of ownership in rule?
Well, no, it doesn't say change of ownership. You're talking about Rule 209.
No, she's
Yeah,
probably
I
talking
didn't
about
know this was coming up. I didn't do my homework, but I think so. I
209
think
or
it's
301?
No, 209.
209?
209.
Oh, 209, okay.
I think 209 says a merger is not considered. I think it's fairly clear in the language of the rule. Merger is not included. Yeah, can you look at it? Is not included as a change of ownership, which would conflict with this.
Well, I think I've taken a look at that, and I think you
Yeah.
can construe it to not exempt, mergers are changes of ownership. I think that's fairly clear.
Fair
Yeah,
enough. So
right.
I think the rule maybe needs to get clarified, because it's really hard for us
Mhm.
to try to explain to someone else, well, no, that's not really what the rule says, when the English seems, fairly clear.
I think
So
I've taken a look at it, and we'll
Yeah,
take a
I'm
look at it
saying.
again.
We'll take a look
but
at it.
We can take a look at it again.
All right, very good.
as long as it's clear to everyone what they need to do and what the criteria is, I think,
Certainly.
that's the.
That'll be good.
Okay, very good, very good. So any other questions or comments on this particular item? Good, thumbs up, very good. Dave, we are entering, the other number 6, the others that I know, Dave, very
Fortunately, you
diligently and
hit most of
patiently.
my request list,
Hey,
but I have a couple one I'll
Okay.
bring out, we could talk offline for one.
Sure.
But one that does impact other folks would be sort of how we deal with ERCs, and specifically like yesterday, Frank Capone and I were sort of alluding to, for the waste industry, you have a push to get food waste out of landfills and take that food waste and digest it. And this is the same essential public service that we have as far as in a landfill, where that gas is treated as essential public service, and you get a priority reserve. But as you take that food waste out and then, say, put it over in a private digestion facility that's not contiguous to wastewater treatment plant, it has the same function. So as we're changing the way we deal with waste, should we change the definition of a sewage treatment plant, or somehow make sure that same function is covered? So it would require a rule change, at least in my opinion, to cover that.
Minimum, yeah. And are you talking about just South Coast specific, or are
This
you
is
looking at
just-
it for the
This is
entire
just
state?
South Coast. Other air districts wouldn't have the same type of approach.
Well, San Joaquin, I think, was the
Even
same,
though,
because they
They
do a
don't
lot of.
have, they don't have essential public service.
Right.
They don't
Yeah.
have free credits.
Exactly.
Well, one of the problems is that if we start giving the free credits to everybody, it's something that you have brought up, David, in many meetings, that there would be less of it available for the other processes.
Right.
That you guys might be,
I'm
and
not
then I know
saying-
you're very cognitive of that.
I'm not saying expand it, it's the same thing that's happening.
Yeah.
You're just changing the way a landfill works. You're limiting landfills. So it's the same process, the same waste stream, but instead of saying it's part of the landfill, now it's truly a separate little bitty landfills. So it's not expanding the universe, it's just maintaining the same process.
I know we've been working with some of the facilities, to work at the state level, to see if the state can provide or level the playing field throughout the whole California, but exempting it from offsetting. Just haven't heard anything back.
Well, I know
from
that legislation, while it is conflict with state laws, I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. But as far as what we can do here in the South Coast, I'm just saying,
how do you refer, which one?
I don't
Refer to the
remember.
75% diversion?
No,
or-
not that, but as far as exempting
Exempting.
that process, saying you would not have to offset it anywhere in the state, yeah, that would be the problem. But I don't see that bill going anywhere. Short of that being successful, which I don't think it would be, all I'm saying is, as far as the way you treat that new process for permitting, it seems like it's just a new industry that's an offshoot of the solid waste industry with the same intent of an essential public service. That would we say blanket, this is something that exists, has existed for a while, and it's just morphed into something else.
No, yeah,
So are you guys planning, as SCAQ, as an association, are you planning to have a formal ask of us to amend Reg 13 or the essential public definition, or what are the plans?
If
on
need be, if that's what you're
Yeah.
suggesting,
Yeah.
that's kind of an ask of, what's the best way to proceed to get this on the radar?
ask. And the rule changing.
Get going, Wayne, do you have any suggestions as far as audience?
I think that's an important issue. I was saying, to elevate it to Wayne's level.
Okay.
Because it's an area where multiple interests, may start overlapping. So you've got the air quality issue, but you've got the organic waste diversion issue, which is a
Sounds like
statewide
yesterday we were talking about
goal,
biogas, it's kind of in that realm.
Yeah, biogas, yeah, exactly.
Just wanted to bring that up, just
Yeah.
this year. The other one I'm talking about offline as far as interpretation of rules, as far as, I'll bring it up, maybe it's something that someone else would have a similar issue. But as far as, we had a biosolids drying operation, and told that it's within a wastewater treatment plant, and to get a permit for a biosolids dryer within my wastewater treatment plant, we were told that's not part of your wastewater treatment process. You have to get a research permit that's only for, a short duration of time. So once I build this out full scale, I would have to offset part of my wastewater treatment process. So that seems in conflict with the rule says. So I think, you and I talked about it a while ago, I don't know if anyone took a look at it.
Right, well, okay, so for 441, there was one of the items that you had. We have an internal policy, it's not an engineering policy, C13, which has been on the books since 1990s. We have to figure out where it is on the website. But that limits the permits, that how long we can issue a permit for on the 441. So that policy gives us a 2-year maximum issuance. But what we do is we give 1 year, and then the second year, if you request it, we will provide you. But then you also have to realize, 441 permits are really there for advancement of cleaner technology. So, we've been now looking at it a little bit more closely instead of just issuing 441 permits. We're looking at it a little bit more closer, see if this is really going to advance the technology to have cleaner air. So,
You have to say it's research.
we have to say it is, and it is not. But then, looking at the heaters, we're also looking at it from and I think we need to have a separate discussion because it's really limited to the heaters at your facilities. Is it really for economical purposes, or is it really part of the processing? So, if you have to ship this out, if you have less water weight on it, is it really, and you have to pay less, is it really economic? You're approaching it from economic purposes, or is it part of the essential public service? Because at the time that, once you have filtered it, and, you pressed it, and you have taken the liquid out, that's...
It's part of the process, one way or another, it's part of an essential public service. And I could truck it 200 miles away, or I could process it locally, it's still part of the process. I think in South Coast perspective, it's better not to truck it 200 miles and deal with it locally if you can.
Yeah.
So that's a short end of the story, but just
And I
on the
think we
research
should discuss
permit,
it.
what was the specific requirement limiting it to no more than 2 years?
That's our policy that we have developed back in 1980s.
I was looking back to 1309.1.
No. There is a C13 policy under engineering policies that spells out, how long we're going to give it.
Trying to follow the conversation, and I'm following, pieces and bits of it. But I don't know where I'm connecting all the dots, so mainly to
You have to have a meeting.
have an offline
Separate meeting.
It's kind of
discussion, to go over the details without,
Oh, Jody,
Take it
I
over
wanted
time.
to address your question. Actually, Amir kindly showed me a copy of Rule 209. So Rule 209 actually says that a merger does not constitute a transfer and therefore voiding of the permit. It doesn't say anything about not constituting a change of ownership.
But isn't that the governing rule that would,
Now, it's
is
the health and safety
materially
code.
affecting?
Health and safety code says change of
But
ownership.
you're filing the change of ownership, the change of ownership because your permit would be voided with that transfer.
Well, you're filing it because state law requires that in a change of ownership, we have to actually review the application to ensure proper conditions. Under a name change, we don't have that opportunity for the review.
But if you did nothing, if there was a change of ownership, that rule says it would be voided. Anyways, I think.
Yeah, can we discuss that a little later? We are taking
Sure,
the gentleman's time.
I give a general one.
Oh, okay.
One thing, at least for my members, had said as far as the policy of getting out draft permits to review, it seems like some folks were saying it's still not done consistently, and maybe it's just kind of the rush of getting permits out the door to reduce the backlog, but some of my folks are saying they didn't have a chance to review the permit.
Okay, so with the permit reviewing, there's a special box on the 408 form. Now, I'm going to plead to a few folks, please ask your members to use the latest forms and just don't pick one from their hard drive, because the forms that we have, latest forms has a lot more questions, and one of the questions is, would you like to review the copy of the permit before it is issued? If you mark that, the permit will not be issued until we have to send a copy of it to you. If we haven't done that, I apologize. We'll have a better discussion with our engineering staff that if that box is checked, you should not be issuing the permit unless there has been a discussion with them.
So what is the issue? What is the issue? I'm trying to.
It's just more of, I've heard that folks wanted to review the draft, maybe they didn't check the box, but they didn't have an opportunity.
Right.
But it's okay, maybe they didn't check the box, but did they let the engineer know? Okay, we
That's
didn't
the
check the
other
box, but, we would still we would be interested in reviewing the permit.
Right, I have to check with this.
Yes.
Okay, because, my answer would be, hey, just pick up the phone, call the phone, and ask for it, and we should deliver it to you. And if we are not, then I need to hear about it.
I'll let you know.
It should be part of the dashboard process.
Okay,
That would be.
all right, okay,
Okay.
all right.
And
Yes.
as of the changes that have been made and everything, in the communications that we've had, every time when we've asked,
You got it.
we've gotten it every time. It's just, I don't know about a box.
Uh-huh.
I
That's
may
how
have
it should
boxed
work.
it, not, but
Right.
in
That's how it
the
should work.
communication.
Yeah, if it's just any
provide-
communication,
we've
we'll
got
do
it
it.
every time.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah, so please use the latest forms. Well,
That's what I got.
That's it?
That's it, you went through most of them.
Hey, well, that's very good. That's very good. Any?
Amir's got something?
Amir, you want to? Is there anybody else?
Besides Amir?
wants-
I still have time.
Clearly, you want to
Yes.
say something.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to bring it to everybody's attention that we have a new SQL form. You know, we have updated our SQL form, and we are going to make it available on our website. It's basically has expanded the number of the questions to include greenhouse gases and a couple of other SQL issues that were not addressed in the previous SQL form. So we are going to give it a little grace period for everybody to transition to the new form, but then we're going to stop accepting the old SQL form as being acceptable as part of your application process. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of it, and it's going to be available on the website soon,
Today or Tuesday?
today or Tuesday.
And that's under forms?
It's under forms.
And
So
that's just, what's the change? The
it's
greenhouse gas?
there's a couple more questions. One on the greenhouse gases. So we want to make sure that facilities be aware that if you have a combustion process and you're releasing greenhouse gases, if you exceed a certain number, and there is a greenhouse gas calculator built into the form, that you need to do additional SQL analysis. And then there's a couple of other SQL issues. I think it's noise and
Noise was one, and
Noise.
aesthetics.
aesthetics
Yeah.
question there too. So just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. When we have a new SQL document, the new SQL form that's being released. Thank you. No questions. Oh, there's.
Okay, you alluded to it, so I just have to ask. Policies and a library or something,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So what is the status of that? So, because we talked about the number of these policies, and I just sent them back to 1993.
Yeah. Talk to Rita. She'll tell you.
So is that part of this, an
Yes.
effort to have some type of repository?
Yes, the policies are there, and Dave wasn't able to find them. But clearly, we are hearing the same comment, from multiple other individuals. We need to do a better job in showcasing and displaying those policies. We are going through a website design change now, and we also want to change the way the permanent website, is laid out. So it is part of our to-do list to make sure that a lot more visible.
Because it would help, because a lot of times there are guidelines, like for blast boosts,
Yeah.
and so if you could find them, I think it would help
Yeah.
the users in terms of being able to locate those ahead of time.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
when they're
Okay,
doing a
we
permit
agree.
application.
We agree,
Yeah.
we agree. Rita, you found them.
Since
You
it
should-
was brought
Okay.
up,
All right.
it was Carol's fault.
Yeah.
Maybe, I would have a suggestion for the new website. If you could put it under business or rules as a separate link, policies,
Yes.
engineering policies. That's the way it was in the past.
Okay.
And actually it was on the main page, they had a quick links, box.
Under business.
And it was, policies and procedures, engineering policies and procedures. And
Okay.
that link took you to all of them.
Okay.
After we lost that link, that's when the problems started popping up, because now you have to really navigate the website and look for certain things, and
It's interesting, that you're making the comment, I'm looking at our two folks, they both. So I don't know what. So a word of caution, so the website redesign, is well underway. And what we are discussing here is not necessarily part of that. But as I said, we're going to be going through multiple phases, so I got to make sure that I'm including this as part of the next iteration or as part of the permanent website design. So
I think if it's under the permitting website section where it's logical. where
it's
you find it,
logical,
that would
it's
be-
visible.
I mean, I know it
it's
exists, and it
standalone.
took me half an hour to find it.
Okay, all right.
I have a suggestion about navigating our website, which admittedly stinks. The search box is your friend.
We are webcast.
I actually
Never
tried to
need
use
to
the
find
search
it in
box
the
and it
search
didn't
box.
help in this case.
Didn't
Oh,
help.
no, that's-
Okay.
Because the search box is actually done by Google, so pretty neat.
So you blame Google.
Yes.
Okay.
No, actually, no.
It's point well taken, night register, it's up there, we'll get there. Any public comment? Rita, any other issue that you wanna bring? Okay. Okay, very good.
Oh, wait, I do
So-
one more item.
Oh, sorry, are you part of the public?
No.
You wanna go there and?
No, the SQL forms, the online SQL forms actually are the new questions or the new form that we have developed. So just wanted to make everybody aware that
Oh, that's cool.
online forms they already built. The new SQL question forms are actually part
Yes.
of our new online
Very good.
system.
Okay, and with that, I'm gonna bring the meeting to closure. Happy holidays to all of you guys. Thank you for attending our end of the year, meeting and great input, great feedback, and enjoy the holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.